from the berry without too much work and without the pickup of a whole lot of sort of other characters of extract and tannin and those types of things. So it's really gentle extraction of these really beautiful flavours. So once we press the Pinot Noir out, we leave it for 3 or 4 days to settle, and then we gravity fill it to barrel and we put it away in a nice cool dark environment, and it's there that it really builds its own flavour and aroma and texture over the next sort of 9 months. Over the last couple of years, we can really identify our own sort of vineyard characteristics. We're starting to realise that we are a site that produces really highly perfumed wines that perhaps don't have really intense flavours, but are just really beautiful and feminine. And some of the vineyards that we buy from for our sort of Gulf Station range, come from different parts of the valley, and they really do have different characters. And by treating things really gently, we're really identifying and capturing the the essence of this particular site. One of the important characteristics we're looking for in Pinot Noir is obviously the lovely aroma. We're really looking for delicacy in aroma and flavour. We want good length of flavour, but it really needs to be soft and velvety and gentle and supple and delicious. So the last of the wines I'm going to show you today is the Shiraz Viognier. Shiraz Viognier is a relatively new blend in Australia. It's we only add about 5% Viognier to the Shiraz, and that's enough to give really lovely aromatics and perfume to the wine. It's a blend that's been going on in France, though, in the northern Rhone for hundreds of years, where Viognier was interplanted with Shiraz, obviously all picked together and fermented together. And I think it's an interesting new style of Shiraz for Australia, in that it's probably a bit more like Pinot Noir than it is of traditional full-bodied Australian Shiraz styles. So it is perhaps a little bit more feminine in style, and is a really delicious drink. It's really interesting that sort of the addition of Viognier not only gives perfume, but it gives a real brightness to colour. Sort of one of the things that we've found is that Viognier does contain different types of tannins which extract different colour compounds out of the Shiraz skins, and we can often get real vibrance of colour with the addition of Viognier. So I guess one of the really important things with Shiraz Viognier is that they don't smell of oak. It's really important that they smell of the two varieties of both Shiraz, the spice and pepper, and of Viognier, the perfume and really sort of esoteric characters of Viognier. So on the palate, we're looking for real suppleness and deliciousness of flavour. We really don't want, heavy oak or heavy alcohol or those types of things. We're looking for real balance in the wine and real sort of drinkability. So these wines really are to be consumed within sort of 3 to 5 years of release. So we're releasing our 2005 at the moment. We'd be looking at drinking now over the next sort of 3 to 4 years, and that's where I think most of the enjoyment will be gained. I've just shown you four wines in the range. There are some other smaller production lines in the range, including Cabernet Sauvignon, a straight Viognier, and a Pinot Noir Rosé. So we do have some other things that we make small quantities of, and it'll be interesting to see how they develop over the next couple of years and whether they become core brands. I'm now going to talk about our reserve release sort of wines, which are single vineyard wines from within the estate. So our estate grown range is obviously everything grown around the winery here, and it's of a particular site. There's lots of different sort of microclimates within that, but these are actually single vineyard wines from within the estate. The reason we've made these is we have some quite old plantings. In reds we've got plantings going back to 1971, and in whites we've got plantings going back to 1981. So those wines have, those vines have reasonable age on them. Each of the vineyards involved is actually quite finite in size, so the actual amount of wine that we can make from each of those vineyards is very finite, and that's sort of really important. So when I talk about the, Yarra, for example, it's a vineyard on top of the hill up here, and it's defined, it's about 4.5 acres of 1971 plantings, and it produces somewhere between 8 and 12 tonnes each year. So the production is really limited and finite. In the case of the Pinot Noir, we're looking at around 2 acres that are planted out the back here, so the production is somewhere between 4 and 6 tonnes of fruit each year. And in the case of Chardonnay, we have a bit more of that. Of the 1981 plantings, there's about 4 acres in there, and so we can produce, somewhere between 8 and 10 tonnes of fruit. So one of the really important, or I guess the most important part of making these wines is that they really do need to reflect site absolutely and consistently need to represent that particular site. It is, however, really important that they also represent season. So this year will be slightly different to last year, which is slightly different to the year before. But there's a really common thread of that vineyard, within each season, which I think is really important in the production of premium wine. I'll now try the Chardonnay with you, and this again is from some 1981 plantings. We talk about sort of clonal material with some of these wines. This is actually a very old Australian clone called P58, and it's really characterised by having a lot of small berries within the bunch, and we call those chickens. And they have a lot of concentration of flavour and are really intense, and it's something that the breeding programs tended to forget about for sort of 15 to 20 years with things like Chardonnay, where they wanted to produce really consistent size bunches and things like that. What we like about this is that the bunches aren't so consistent. There are some normal sized berries and there are some small berries, and those small berries contain really interesting and different flavours. Similar to the estate-grown Chardonnay, we really are looking for flavours of site, and not necessarily really strong peachy characters and those types of things of Chardonnay. We're really looking at the other end and looking for minerality, for texture, for stone fruits, perhaps even a little bit of wet stone, slaty sort of characters. And it's these sort of things which really characterise top quality Chardonnay, and that doesn't look particularly varietal but more looks like site. On this particular wine, I see a lot of phenolic type characters, and a lot of people don't quite understand what phenolic characters are, but they're the characters which contribute to minerality. They contribute to texture, and they contribute to the nice sort of smelly Macaptani type characters. And while that might sound terrible, it's really all in the production of absolutely premium and interesting and textured wine. God, that's delicious. So the second of the reserve wines I'd like to show you is the Pinot Noir, and this again, comes from out the back here in the 1971 plantings. Really old clone. Sort of the actual clone is MV4 and 5. It's interplanted. It's planted to fairly wide row spacings, sort of which was traditional at the time. But it really produces wines with amazing depth of flavour and real individuality. So in terms of colour, one of the things about old vines is they really give an intensity of colour, and that's why we're interested in old vine type material. That there's sort of real depth and intensity of colour, even though it might be sort of fairly light. It has a brightness which is very important. So on the aroma with something like this, we're looking not only for bright fruit character, but we're really looking for the characteristics of old vines and that type of thing. And old vines really do give fantastic depth.